Is one's nationality important to understand their values and principles? Or does society place a great deal of emphasis on nationality in order to categorize them into certain groups? The answer is society. It is often said that one's nationality is a true reflection of a person. However, what people fail to recognize is that one's true identity is composed of much more than what nation they belong to. They are composed of their likes, their dislikes, their behavior, and much more, which is an idea that is expressed in Michael Ondaatje's The English Patient. Michael Ondaatje is a Sri Lankan-born Canadian. He was born in 1943 on September 12th in Colombo, Sri Lanka, but in 1962 he immigrated to Montreal, Canada, and eventually became a Canadian citizen. From there, he began studying in Quebec, but moved and attended the University of Toronto, where he completed his Bachelor of Arts and his Masters of Arts from Queen's University. In 1970, he became settled in Toronto and taught English literature in institutes including Glendon College and York University. Nowadays, he is one of Canada's most celebrated living authors, along with Margaret Atwood and Alice Munro. His other books include From Ink's Lake and Anil's Ghost. His book, The English Patient, was written in 1992 and revolves around the past and present life of a nurse named Hannah, Kip, a sick soldier, a thief named Caravaggio, and a burned Englishman named Almasy. The four of them create an unlikely bond as they work together to uncover the uncomfortable truths about one another's pasts. The novel The English Patient by Michael Ondaatje is an important novel as it addresses the concepts of nationality and identity by effectively expressing how society believes our nationality depicts our identity. This can be proved by Almasy's desire to escape from his nationality, the lack of acknowledgement Kip receives, and the discrimination we face in our daily lives. Judith Grossman says, given the role our identity plays in the way we experience and accrue power, it's important to understand the potential obstacles, discrimination, and oppression that some groups may experience over others. For some, the experience of being a particular sex or sexual orientation from a particular racial or ethnic group or socioeconomic class involves recurring and even systematic or institutional prejudice. This prejudice can manifest in unequal opportunities, rights, or wages, as well as being stereotyped, marginalized, or persecuted. Essentially, identifying oneself with a particular nationality can lead to extreme backlash. Many people are unable to separate the decisions taken by political leaders from the citizens of that particular country. People tend to group the nation as a whole and fail to recognize that decisions taken by leaders are not appreciated by everyone in society. As a result, people tend to react to decisions taken by nations by attacking their citizens. Essentially, people tend to discriminate against those of other nations merely because they are associated with it. However, if one was to remain impartial, they would not receive such backlash. Also, Sam Jordison says, there was a time when someone would get on a plane and request to move their seat, just because the person sitting next to them was of a different ethnicity, religion, or nationality. But I don't think my generation wants that. That's how it used to be. This quote demonstrates the fact that people are willing to judge a person based on their personality and what they offer to society, rather than their nationality, just how it should be. Although in the past, people were unwilling to put their prejudice ideologies aside, in today's society, people are actively trying to eliminate such backwards thinking. This quote suggests that people should no longer use nationality as a means to judge a person's character. Rather, they are trying to break that barrier. The English patient Almasy struggles to expose his identity throughout the book. He had rambled on, driving them mad, traitor or ally, leaving them never quite sure who he was. Essentially, Almay's skin color, which is a major racial marker, is burnt in the fire. Originally, he is a Hungarian man, yet he is being mistaken as an Englishman as he was raised in an English household when he was younger. This expresses the extent to which people base identity off nationality. Since he talks and behaves similar to an Englishman, society immediately assumes he is English. From now on, he is referred to as the anonymous English patient. Also, Almasy states, all of us wish to remove the clothing of our countries. Almasy's line reflects that people do not want to be associated with their nation due to the fear of the potential backlash they may face. People are unwilling to identify themselves as a member of a nation, as people tie the decisions taken by the political leaders of the nation to the citizens. People do not want to be associated with the negative decisions their political leaders take. On the whole, people do not want to be judged for where they came from and do not want to be identified as members of a nation. Rather, they wish to be identified for their personal achievements. Next, Almasi says, by the time war arrived, after 10 years in the desert, it was easy for me to slip across borders, not to belong to anyone, to any nation. In essence, belonging to oneself and the world is much easier than trying to fit in with one nation and one culture. Being impartial in respect to nationality allows for one to possess a much more balanced perspective of the world. Also, by not identifying with one particular nation, allows for a person to express themselves through their personal achievements and their positive contributions to the world, rather than being associated with a country and all of its negativity. Another character whose identity was affected by his nationality is Kip. Kip is a Sikh soldier, but he does not want to be known as an Indian as they do not get enough attention. He says, "Oh yeah, I think I've not had letters for some times, and it is likely that my brother is still in jail." Here, Kip is asked if he believes that his father is still alive, but he replies bluntly. He believes that he has turned into the English and does not belong to the Indians, thus does not care about his nation. This is because when he is training with the British Army, he is welcomed into the English family and is not questioned for his race or ethnicity, which is all he wants because he does not want to be discriminated against for being Indian. This is significant because it expresses how much of a toll discrimination takes on Kip. He does not want to be known as an Indian and only wants to be known as an Englishman who is more reputable. I remember one Saturday afternoon I was with one of my Afghan friends at the mall. We were shopping for shoes to wear to a party that night, when two men of different races say, "Let's get out of here, I don't want to die from a terrorist attack." Immediately after I heard this, I realized to what extent society labels people based solely on their nationality. A woman wearing a hijab makes her Afghan, yes. But does that make her a terrorist? Does being a part of an ethnic group who has had some history with terrorism give people the right to assume the same for all people? The answer is no. Although members of nationalities often share similar characteristics, people should be judged based on their individual characteristics instead of the characteristics few people within a population possess. Just because in the past there have been terrorist attacks led by Afghans, does not mean the same for the entire population. Another time, I remember I was in America and my family was shopping. As we approached the cashier, we began discussing our individual lives, and once I said I am Canadian born, the lady automatically assumed that I say "A" or that I possess politeness and kindness. Not to mention, she assumed that I love to watch or play hockey and lacrosse, all because I said I was Canadian. The fact that the cashier lady immediately assumed my character based on my one comment, "I am Canadian," demonstrates the inability for our society to accept people based on their individual traits. The woman did not know who I was, and just because of that one comment, she believed that I possessed the same characteristics of all Canadians. Labeling an entire nation with character traits allow for more discrimination and more narrow-mindedness throughout the world, as it is thoroughly expressed in The English Patient. In conclusion, the idea of nationality illustrating one's identity is effectively shown in Michael Ondaatje's novel, The English Patient. Ondaatje uses the English patient Almasi and the fact that people immediately assumed his nationality as an English patient to demonstrate how society overlooks the genuine characteristics people possess and assume their character based on their nationality. Also, this is illustrated when Kip is not recognized for his good deeds because he is a Sikh soldier. Throughout our daily lives, we encounter various people with different nationalities who are immediately assumed to possess certain characteristics based on their ethnicity or race. Although oftentimes people are judged based on the color of their skin or the country in which they live in reality, it is the character traits and behaviors that people inherit or develop that depict their identity, which is clearly demonstrated in Michael Ondaatje's The English Patient.